Moses is a he, and he's also a him, and he's out of Florida. And Moses says, unlocking the truth of God in everyday life and how you find him if you search. Okay, Moses,
right.
You're on the Atheist Experience with Secular Rarity and Johnny P. Angel. How do you unlock the truth of God in everyday life? Please explain.
Hello, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, pretty good. How about you?
Yep.
Awesome. Doing wonderful. All right, I'm gonna just jump straight into it this time.
Do it.
All right. So, as atheists, would you guys say that you guys even believe in love or experience something as simple as love?
Yes, of course. Moses,
Yeah.
please. Do you think that we're from planet Zorkax and we don't
No.
have normal human
okay.
feelings?
Yeah.
Okay,
Of course
all right.
we love.
Okay.
I
So-
sometimes get the hiccups too. I don't
Okay.
know if that's next, but yeah.
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
just like you, except we don't
Wonderful.
accept that a God exists. That's it. Just like you.
Okay. That's wonderful. So,
It's all right.
if I told you that I didn't believe in love and I thought you were just making it up so you can feel good about yourself, how would you prove to me and your viewers that you have love inside of you and you can prove that love exists?
I could demonstrate to you various relationships that I have had with people, currently have with people, all of the tangible things that have been done for that or record that. So there's video evidence of me hanging out with friends, there's pictures and so forth. I can show you the things that those people have made for me. I can talk to you about how many years we've spent together knowing each other. I can then also walk you through an immense amount of stories from generations of people that have never met each other and couldn't possibly have met each other, and their stories coincide very well as we can now do all this really fun stuff with like science and medicine. We can kind of like, I'm going to say it's silly just for the sake of it, but we can kind of like look in your brain a bit. And we can see some stuff that then very much correlates to regularly attested to feelings by people on a regular basis, to the point that you can actually make predictions. Not having spoken to these people, you can take a scan of their brain, see certain activity, and then go, that person would probably say they were feeling love in that moment. And then when asking them, surprisingly, we're right more often than not. So like, that's just a start, man. That's not even like the whole kit and caboodle.
Right. But do you see how that's just an assumption that you can jump to, but it's not necessarily showing me that that's love?
No, if you're taking that level of skepticism, I don't know how you called in today. If you're taking that type of radical skepticism for absolutely everything and being consistent, I don't know how you get out of bed in the morning. Yes, there are certain assumptions like anything else in the world exists except for me. But that is an absolutely nonsensical way to live your life. You cannot live your life in that solipsistic understanding of the world.
But so why do you get to apply that thinking when it comes to God?
Because it isn't even close to that level. Like there's so much information out there that refutes the various God claims out there. I am not the person that has to define my God. You do. And when you define your God for me, right. and I'm saying you in the broad sense, right? Not you specifically, Moses. I feel like you and I have always had good chats. But when a believer describes their God to me, they say, this is what my God is like. We have lots and lots of evidence that directly refutes those claims at worst, right? At the best for the believer, sure. we just don't have any reason to accept those claims. So it's like, well, yeah, that's why I can do it. If, however, we start investigating the claim that you are the only existence in all of reality and I'm just a figment of your imagination, well, that's the end of the conversation, isn't it? Because you're the only thing in existence, and now you're just talking with yourself, so I already agree with you, right? So we have to make certain very basic assumptions to move on.
Okay, that is fair. So, but is it also? It's funny because the Bible clearly describes God being love.
Okay, let me.
You clearly believe in.
So the Bible describes God as being love. Okay, cool.
Yes.
That's a bit of an oversimplification. And also, I would say, wouldn't you agree, it's under-inclusive of the attributes of God that we learn about in the Bible, right? God is love, it is said, but God is also retribution and vengeance and demanding. And all of those, love is patient, love is kind qualities that we know from that passage do appear to be contradicted in the character of God. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with you, but if you can understand the Bible in the spiritual sense, then you could see that if we understand that God is love and accept that truth, then we can understand why God has to necessarily be a wrath, because wrath is what we throw on ourselves when we decide not to accept the truth of what love is.
Yeah, Moses.
Right? So if you don't
really.
believe in,
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought. I have something to say.
so like the whole concept of hell, right? So if you tell your mind there is no God, if you tell your mind there is no love, you're automatically putting yourself in a world of hate, in a world of hell, in a world of a fiery wrath. That's the whole concept of you instantly prison yourself. You no longer have eternal love, aka eternal life, when you don't believe in Jesus, when you don't believe in Christ in your mind.
Okay, Moses.
You instantly place yourself into hell.
Moses, gosh,
Yes,
it's been a while since I've done a show. I haven't heard this, pardon me, crap in such a long time. So forgive me for being rusty. But what is loving about a believe in me or you go to hell forever? What's loving about that?
Okay, so you might have misunderstood what I was saying, right? You're thinking of hell as a physical place that we all go to if we don't do this, if we do one sin, if we're a bad person.
So you don't think hell is a real physical place like that?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, right, Moses?
Is that right, Moses? You don't think hell is a real place?
No.
Okay, it's just like a state of mind. It's just like a
Yes, it is a state of mind that you automatically enter when you say, I do not believe in love. I do not believe in God, right? I do not believe I can be free from this hell, this world, right?
So let me jump in for just a second, because there's two quick things. One, I want to go back to something you said just a second ago that I think is really important. And I think once you hear it again, you'll say, oh no, okay, not really. And then the other one is just that real quick. So I'll do that one first. Of like if somebody's out there saying, I don't think love is real in any capacity whatsoever. It's a complete and total illusion. It doesn't exist even in a conceptual sense. Well, yeah, man. Like you don't have to explain to me why that son of a bitch like has a bunch of hate in their heart. Like, I totally get that, man. Yeah. But the cool thing is, like, Johnny and I aren't saying that. Like, that's not even close to what. No, not in the slightest, man. We totally think love is a real thing. Compassion, friendship, kindness, joy, like support through tough time, all of that stuff, man. We're not saying we think that is not real, right? That's not what we're saying. We feel like the evidence has been sufficient there, okay? The problem is the God thing, and the problem is the connection of the God thing and the love thing as so intrinsically tied together that without one you cannot have the other, okay? There's really where the crux of it is for us. We don't think the God's been demonstrated, don't believe in that, don't think you can make decisions based on that crap. But love, yeah, totally real, definitely happens. We totally feel it. Now, real quick, and then I'll throw it back to Johnny and you. You said something. You said something really, really quick, and I want to make sure we don't skip over this. At one point, you said, "If we just accept that God is love, then," and you made these connections, and I think, okay, yeah, if we just accept that God is love, then yeah, I can see how we get to those connections. But do you see that doesn't work and wouldn't work for you? If I said to you, if we just accept that Muhammad is the final messenger of the one true God, Allah, then you can see why all of this stuff afterwards, right? But that's what we're arguing about, man. That's what we have the problem with. That's the thing we have to figure out. So we can't just accept it and move on. We have to have that proven. We have to have that crucial point demonstrated. Does that make sense, Moses?
Okay. So that makes perfect sense. So when you mentioned Muhammad, I realized that you're trying to throw in a religion, but if you understood what I was saying in previous calls, that God is a manifestation of everything that we experience and we see. So technically, God is in everything, in all creation. So when we understand that we are all just one piece of the whole puzzle, and we don't worship any particular piece, but we understand that our power comes from being part of the whole puzzle, and we understand that, okay, if we love together, the more love that harmonizes together, we get that greater love frequency in who God is, right? We're not trying to worship a specific man as in Muhammad or Moses or Buddha, right? Because that's worshiping man. God doesn't call us to worship man, but he calls us to worship the Father, right? So the source. And the moment that somebody tries to lift themselves above the source and say, I am greater, you must follow me or you're going to die. If you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. You are starting a religion. You are causing people to die under your false knowledge.
Okay, kind of sounds like Jesus might fit that criteria based on what you just said. I'll be quiet. I swear. Go.
Sure. Moses, it sounds like your definition of, for a moment there, it sounded like you said your definition of God was everything that we see and experience in the world. Could you please elaborate on that? Because I have something to say to that, if I understood you right.
Okay, so God uses all things good and evil to glorify his creation, right? So that's just how God works. So I can give, what I was trying to do last week is give you a biblical and physical current time example of how we can see how God manifests in everything in our lives, right? So from sports to politics to the news to our jobs to our everyday lives, the things that happen are physical manifestations of the spiritual beauty of who God is, right? So if you would like me to give you an example, I can give you an example of how God manifests.
Well, that's kind of what you called for, Moses. You called to
right.
So let's do that, and then let's hear what you said about that. Come on, let's hear it.
Okay, so are you familiar with the story of Abraham in the Bible?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not trying to talk about the Bible. I'm just giving it you as a reference. So in the Bible, Abraham was known as the man who was the father of faith, and the promise was given to him. So basically, through Abraham, Christ's nation would be free. Okay? So, what president do we know was known as the person who freed the slaves? Abraham Lincoln. Wow, isn't that funny?
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln.
My God, Moses.
Okay, and so
Moses, I'm not saying anything about that. That is one of the. You're not this, but that is one of the stupidest things that I've heard on the show. Not you, just that thing that you said. You got another example?
It continues. It gets
better.
It's not just the one. That's why.
Go for it. Give me more. Give me more.
Yeah.
Give me more.
So,
I feel like a wrestling heel, and your boos are my energy source. What else you got, Moses? Go on.
Okay, so Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in Peter's house, right? That was the place that he died. It was known as Peterson's house or Peter's house, right?
I thought he was shot at a theater.
Ford's Theater.
Yeah. Ford Theater. Is it Ford Theater? Is that right?
But
pretty sure.
The place was called Peter's house, though. You can look it up right now if you need to.
We'll just accept it, Johnny.
Let's say he got shot.
Keep going.
And then they carried him over to Peter's house. All right, sure. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Let's just say.
Okay. So Jesus Christ grew up in Peter's house, and his ministry started in Peter's house, right? So it's a testament to show that in order to grow up in your faith, you must die in Peter's house for that promise.
Where does it say that Jesus' ministry started in Peter's house? Real quick, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Where does it say? What reference are you getting for Peter's house?
It's in the Bible. You can fact
Tell us
You can fact check it
right now. You're
Just-
so confident. Give us the chapter
Yeah,
and
just
verse.
give me some
Chapter and
some
verse,
kind of
friend.
reference. Yeah.
What do you got?
Let me see. Jesus ministry.
I thought he
It is,
started in like, didn't he get lost as a child in any
In a temple,
It's in
synagogue?
It's in Capernaum.
Yeah.
It's in a town called Capernaum. It's in a town
Capernaum?
called Capernaum, and that's Capernaum, however you want to describe it.
Sure.
And it's assumed that Jesus was living in Peter's house, and that's where his ministry started.
Where's
Okay.
your chapter and
So
verse?
even if you don't want
give
to
us your
accept that-
chapter and verse, Moses.
Yeah, no, yeah. What's the reference? Just give us the we're not. This isn't like a.
Matthew 8:14. Matthew. Okay. Matthew 8:14.
Okay.
But even if
Okay.
you don't accept this, it still gets deeper. So you don't have to jump into this one and be like, "Oh, I caught him." But I'm just.
But
I'm-
wait,
it
wait,
gets
real
deeper
quick,
if you want to believe the story.
Hang on, Moses. Hang on. We can go a little deeper, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not stopping you there, but I do want to point this out, okay? Because I often find that many believers, not just Christians, not just followers of Jesus and God, right? Just many believers of all stripes, will tell me something like, "No, Elliot, you don't understand. It's a cumulative case." And I go, "Oh, so what you're saying is it's not just one thing, but it's like a layering of multiple things that provide a solid support for this." And they're like, "Yeah, totally." So then I ask the question that I think is the most important, and I'll ask it to you, Moses. If that's why you believe, if we go point by point and demonstrate that every single one of these doesn't work, when do you stop believing?
Well, if I saw the connection and pointed it as similar to the story of God, it's just an opinion whether you want to accept it as true. You don't necessarily have to see the connection, right? But it's just like somebody can see a boat in the clouds, but you don't have to believe that there's a boat in the clouds. But I can just see that
Moses.
connection.
But
I
that's
didn't go
not-
around searching for this.
That's not good for you. If
But-
what you're saying is it's just kind of us looking at shapes in the clouds and some people see God and some people don't, that means by definition, your God is definitely not objectively there. It is a subjective classification that individual humans are just taking their own thoughts and feelings and putting it out there like a concept, which, to be honest, Moses, kind of sounds like some stuff Johnny and I have said in the past. So
Yeah.
welcome to atheism and hell. I'm just kidding with you, man.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing
Hey,
you.
Moses,
But
Moses.
you have to.
Moses,
Sure.
I'm bursting with things to say, and I want to go back. I want to make sure it's SR and you, and then me and you. But I'm still wrapped on this chapter 8 business. Okay, first of all, it's chapter 8. Okay. What about the first 7 chapters? He started his ministry in chapter 8. False. It's like in the Sermon on the Mount is chapter 5. Didn't he start his ministry at least as late as the Sermon on the Mount? Maybe even earlier. Also, a couple months ago, I was on Truth Wanted with Objectively Dan, and we had a sovereign citizen call in, and he took us on a whirlwind tour of many regs, many statutes, many provisions of law, and tried to establish through this patchwork, this Swiss cheese patchwork quilt of bad thinking, that you don't have to pay your federal income taxes. Well, you're calling out the hits and you're ignoring the misses. Okay, Abraham is the father of one of the patriarchs of Judaism, and who freed the slaves? Abraham Lincoln. What on earth? You can't. Do you really honestly think that is a convincing argument? That you would call an atheist?
No,
wait, and then the next thing you said was that he died in Peter's house, and then it doesn't even check out with the timeline of Jesus' ministry. You didn't say, well, that's not a good argument. Maybe I shouldn't use that ministry thing, but it fits in my little name game, matching game. Moses, respectfully, okay? These 2 points are awful. What is your third point? I want to hear that. Is it better or is it worse somehow?
Okay,
It's gotta be.
Okay, the third point is way better. I forgive me if that wasn't I can understand how that point can be looked at as a stretch. That's why I don't be like, oh, my faith is because of these points. But if you can see it, then you have the eyes to see it. But it's not the reason of my faith. Okay. So the third point. So
I'm here for it.
The presidents, right? The presidents are elected individuals.
This is gonna be good.
Who are seated in the White House and in the Oval Office, right? So
not all of them. The
White
earlier
House
ones weren't in the White House, and they weren't in the Oval Office. Didn't exist. Built by slaves, by the way. Built by slaves.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Got burned down by Canadian forces in the War of 1812.
Pitter patter.
Okay, so spiritually, the White House, right? The glorified kingdom that God has prepared for us, right? A crazy place with many mansions, right? White House is symbolism for like a kingdom or whatever, right?
Okay.
And the White House is in between the states Virginia and Maryland, correct?
Uh-huh.
It's in D.C. It's in Federal City, District.
And isn't it funny that the spirit that births life was birthed through Virgin Mary, Virginia and Maryland, and then you have Virgin Mary.
Do you know why? Virginia was named Virginia?
I mean, I don't know. It's not, but Virginia means virgin.
I can tell you,
right?
it's actually really easy. I can tell you, it's very easy. It's a fact that I have known literally since I was about 5 years old, just because like my family comes from there. So there was a queen once in England. There's not a queen now; it's a king. But there was this queen a long ass time ago, and it was like a real big deal that she like was not married. That was like a big thing, a lot of people talked about it, and they called her like the Virgin Queen. And then she paid a bunch of people to get on a boat for 3 months and cross the Atlantic Ocean and then go set up a colony. And then in honor of her, they named it Virginia. And then for Maryland, it's almost exactly the same story, just with a queen named Mary.
And the Brits were real big in developing the colonial infrastructure over on in the colonies over here, back when there's only 13 of us. And so, of course, they're going to name them after royalty and the patrons and stuff like that, Pennsylvania is named after William Penn, New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. I just liked it better that way. But the fact that something's called that is hardly relevant. But let's back up, Moses. So what if there's these weird coincidences between Abraham Lincoln and Abraham the patriarch and Virgin Mary? And are you trying to say that the United States history has been preordained by the Bible? Is that what you're saying, Moses?
Yes, but not only the Bible. Remember, I'm trying to tell you that everything that we live and experience is a manifestation of God's gospel, God's love. Every single thing has been preordained. That's why we are all puzzle pieces of God's kingdom, right? But we have to believe.
How did you come to this?
In order for it to make sense.
How did you come to this conclusion, Moses? Like, did you read it somewhere and then go, oh my gosh, all this stuff, yeah, I can see it now? Like, did somebody tell it to you, or did you? Yeah, how did this happen? Yeah. How did you come to this conclusion?
How did you fall in this pit? Is what we want to know. Were you pushed or did you jump?
And that's the crazy thing. Not at all. Like, that's the one thing. When you're growing in faith, it's very important to not try to learn information from other people, especially false pastors or religious leaders, because they can trap your mind. So all of this stuff, I kid you not, nobody has told me most of these things, right? These are things that just, you know, I believe in God and I believe I have the Spirit of God in me. So these things are shown to me, right? So just like there was one time I was doing research on gangs, and the two biggest gangs in America are Blood and Crips. And then I was just like, oh my gosh,
MS-13.
Jesus, right, with the blood of Jesus, he healed Crips. He healed crippled men, Blood Crips. And then you have gangs like
God.
Gangster Disciples.
Can I?
And Latin Kings.
Moses,
so like all these things are showing who God is.
I want to give you a little bit of my past with the spirituality and the belief in God and stuff. Okay. And the reason I want to do this, and we got some other really good calls, and I think we're gonna move on to some others. But the reason I want to tell you about what my experience was a little bit is because it sounds very, very similar to where you're at. There was a period in my life where I didn't believe, you know, like the books of the Bible. You know, I didn't go to church or listen to a pastor or do anything with rituals, but I did very much fully believe that absolutely everything around me, from the most magnificent and incredible example I could come up with to the tiniest mundane garbage, we all do it every day type of stuff, okay? Every little thing was a vastly important, specific for me message from the universe as a whole. And I could sit here and without putting any effort into it, I could go through a diatribe about why these paper towels falling off my desk right before we started the show is incredibly meaningful. Like there's something about, you know, being wrapped up in things that are flimsy and don't actually provide you support, you know, kind of like how paper towels are wrapped around the towel roll. We can do this with abso-freaking-lutely anything because that's something about us as humans that makes us really cool. We as people can attribute all of this fanciful stuff to all of these things around us without any good reason for that to be the case. And sometimes it can feel really cool and really awesome, and you can make some super cool connections where you go, holy crap, the White House and heaven and Maryland and Virginia, and oh my gosh. But at the end of the day, you can do that with absolutely everything. And just because you can do that does not mean that it is true. And that's why we need a robust epistemology to determine how we know the stuff around us actually is real. And so what I would suggest, man, is go look into some things like pareidolia. Go look into the pattern seeking that we as humans do on a regular basis, because I think it might make some of those things just a little bit less crazy.
Less profound.
Less profound. Thank you. That's a good, thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate you calling, Moses. Thank you for being the first call from after I've come back. I'm going to have to go back and watch your old videos to sort of get on board with where you're at. But holy smokes, Moses, that was something else.